Michelle here, just a really quick intro to a little video Chris and I did. We are indeed in Vienna. This was from yesterday after we saw a composition table by for Maria Theresia Paradis. Now, we found out it was Paradis today. Yesterday we found it was Paradis, like you do say the S for sure, but today we were told it's Paradis. So there we go, and we're in Vienna. We went to this wonderful museum, the Welt Museum, and this is our talk about the composition table after. More later. All right, so here we are outside the Welt Museum in Vienna, and Chris and I are here.
Hello.
And we just saw something fantastic. I really want you to describe it.
Oh my gosh, we experienced the composition board that Maria Theresia Paradis used to compose on, and she worked on this in collaboration with her partner. What they did was they came up with a piece of hardware. Well, it's made of wood, and it's several lines, about 35 horizontal lines of holes for pegs, and then a bunch of differently shaped pegs, and Michelle can describe what it actually does, but the idea is that as she composed in her mind, she wasn't able to jot down things on score paper, but she had this board in front of her, and she would grab the appropriate peg for the note value, the length of the note, and place it on the appropriate part of the staff for the right hand or the left hand. She would grab the peg that indicated and then put an indicator to say what note it was, what actual key it was. There's a little metal treble clef on the side, and so this was a way, it's 8 bars across, and this is how she could sit and compose as she went, and she had to keep a lot in her memory, but there's a version under glass, which is her original, but then there's a version below it, a replica that we could touch, and It was, I have to say, it was one of those moments that transcended time and space for me, because I really could identify with her experience of sitting in front of this board with ideas and music and tones and tunes in her head, and in the same way that we might write Braille today, she was using pegs and her hands to place them and to create a lasting document, that was ephemeral. It could change, but it was a representation of what was in her mind, and then that could be transposed either into her memory or onto score paper by someone she could dictate to. It was an extraordinary experience.
It really, I agree, it was, and it wasn't as extraordinary for me in the sense that I could see what was happening there, but I could tell when you were getting at it, and when we started to figure out what the different things were, you're like, yeah, I get it now, right?
Yes.
That would have been pretty cool.
Yes, and so you were able to follow along because there was a printed notes, the printed notes, right?
Yeah, so there was a printed thing of Mozart's Sonata Facile. So when I was looking at the peg visually, I could see, okay, well that one makes sense. That's a half note. Those are 16th notes. So I could see that's how it worked. But if I was trying to figure out what all those little things underneath were, I couldn't really do it. But you could, because I could describe to you how long they were, and you could find them, right?
Yeah. So between Michelle and I, Michelle could look at it and say, that's a 16th note, that's a half note. Oh, that peg indicates it's a B, and that's the right hand, that's the left hand. And so between us, we were able to parse what these two geniuses had done to make a composing board that someone who does not have sight could use to. And it was 8 bars, is that right?
It was about 8 bars.
8 bars across. There. Yeah. So you could, and I was sort of imagining like someone else who knew this could approach it. There could be a tune transposed out on there, and they could essentially sight read. And Maria Theresia taught many students, and this would have, some of them blind, and this would absolutely have been something she would have had as a teaching tool, right?
Absolutely. And also, it was a school for girls mostly, in my understanding, a piano school, and she taught there's theory and stuff too. And it was, she started in 1808, and I think it was out of her apartment in Vienna. And what I did read about that is she would have to take what she knew of how she composed, what those symbols meant to her, like the little pegs and everything, and then transpose that into what the student who was sighted would be seeing on the page. So that was That's
amazing, very complex,
right? Very complex.
So amazing. You're working from, even the concept of the print is hard if you haven't seen, and having that concept in your head is challenging, and then putting it into your own symbols, then back into the print symbols.
That's incredible.
It's a very versatile mind.
So it was Johann Riedinger, I think is how it's pronounced, was her partner who it's attributed to him, and he would have been the main person who would have written down what she was writing.
So what we imagine is that she would compose 8 bars at a time, lay it out. He would transcribe it, and then she would laboriously take all of those pegs, put them back in their proper containers.
The head container, wooden container, yep.
And yeah, for each type of peg,
Yep.
and then start over for the next 8 bars. So laborious and tedious, but also totally liberating. And it really connected me to people in my life today who are sighted and able-bodied, but take on a challenge of seeing that I've got a difficult problem and say, how could we approach this? How could we use ingenuity to circumvent this or come up with some creative solution? And I really felt that connection too, that this fellow she was working with obviously had that kind of mind, like a creative,
he must have,
an engineering kind of mind. And let's collaborate and see how we can solve this problem in a way that worked. And it does work. It does work. And we're so grateful they preserved it, because now we get to, and it's tucked away, and then we had to ask 5 different people where it was. And so I guess it's not something that everyone comes in and wants to see or thinks much about. But for us to be able to look at it and get our hands on it was an extraordinary experience.
We even went to the wrong museum at first because one article that we read said it was in a different museum.
Yeah, so we had walked through rooms full of armor.
And then in this museum, full of armor until we got there, was so incongruous. Armor, musical instruments.
Right. And there was some great historical instruments too, like a clavichord and a spinet, an early piano, a couple of which you're allowed to play. So that was really impressive as well. So exciting.
And there's a piano there that they said that Maria Theresia would have played on, and we found it's definitely Paradis. So I've been wrong all along. It's Paradis. Okay, so I've got to change that. So be nice to me if I say Parody by accident.
No Vaughan, and it's Paradis.
No Vaughan, and it's Paradis. Yeah.
Even up there though, it was written as Vaughan, right?
It was.
Yeah, that's so interesting that it's a persistent mistake.
Yeah. So that was, and I'll tell you a little bit later about something I did this morning. We're not going to do that now. It's just a little cold and windy out here, and we're supposed to get to dinner. But it was fantastic.
Thrilling. It was really thrilling.
Yeah.
It was an experience you could only have here in Vienna. 100% true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So thank you, Vienna, and thank you, whoever.
Thank you, Canadian taxpayers, for allowing us
to
be here, because, you could not have that experience anywhere else.
No, absolutely not.
For research, that was research that you just could not experience anywhere else.
No, you could not.
Yeah.
So you could tell somebody about it. It's not the same as seeing and feeling it.
No, not at all. I would never have had that moment of identifying with
and it was interesting for me as a sighted person to put my head. So what they had is they had it under glass, the real one, and then they had an opening underneath that, and it was in there on a little bit of a slant. You couldn't take it out. It was in there. So you had to get your fingers in there and see it. So I actually had turned on the flashlight of my phone so I could see in there. But when I was just putting my fingers in there and touching it, it was very, tactile, but it was very, like, I could feel that there were things that were different. Like, didn't mean so much to me as it might have meant to you, in the sense that you're used to feeling things and trying to translate them in your brain. But I kind of got a little joke. Oh, okay, this is really cool. Yeah. Like, what's my brain going to do with this? That was interesting.
Yeah. It's completely, and it took me a while to realize, there's several different kinds of pegs here. So there was a lot to parse. A lot to parse. Yeah, extraordinary.
Oh, boy, that was cool. So I think we'll just sign off for now, because it's kind of cold and we got to go.
Sure.
So we'll do more later. Bye.